Chapter 3 Pinkie Pie. The door of the sugar cap corner swung wide open, and its most enthusiastic occupant poked her head out to see her first guest had arrived. A familiar young blue unicorn coat with heavy, shock white hair stood on the store's front step. "This is where the party's at, right?" he smiled. "Oh, hi, Pokey," Pinkie Pie responded with her usual glee. "You're awfully early. The party's not for another 2 hours." He nodded, walking right past her, in through the open door. "Sound fashionably early," he smirked. "You don't mind?" She slammed the door, not out of anger or frustration, but simply out of abundance of energy. "Ah, no, I don't mind, not at all. I wish everyone showed up early." He knew this girl, bubbly, too bubbly. Seemed like she could be a lot of fun in the right circumstances. Great ass. Carefully. Touch on the heavy side, but he liked them that way. Too bad she was always surrounded by those idle feelings. "Not me," Pokey muttered, slinking towards the punch bowl. As he passed Pinkie Pie, he noticed the balance on her flank. He'd never really paid attention to a cutie mark before. Something in him twitched instinctively, a reflex at that visual. "Fitting," he thought, smirked. The cold helped himself to the punch. As usual, Pokey was something of a party animal. The difference between him and Pinkie, however, is that he didn't organize parties, he just crashed them. In fact, Pokey had come straight here from a masquerade party on the edge of the town. They had great punch there. Tasted kind of funny, strong, maybe spiked too. Wouldn't be the first time he has spiked punch. Good though. Not like this. This stuff was for false. Tasted like no alcohol at all. Thanks to that party that he knew about this one. That one feeling the black mass told him about it. She gave him something too, to bring along, a gift. After all, it would be rude to not bring a gift to a birthday party. Pinkie hopped over to him. She literally bounced across the floor. He took another sip, looking over the glass at her. His girl's switch must have been stuck on max. "I hope you don't mind if I said why you make yourself at home. I still have lots of preparing left to do," she offered, twisting her head sharply to one side as she spoke. It looked painful, but she clearly didn't mind. "Sure," he shrugged, refilling his cup. "Maybe there was alcohol in here. Maybe it was just weak. Better to be sure." She busied herself off the store at breathtaking pace. With Mr. and Mrs. Cake away until the party began, the store was empty, and in the sounds of their absence there was only Pinkie Pie's excited humming in sashing about the drab streamers and floating balloons. It looked festive already, but for the parties Pinkie usually knew, this wasn't even the halfway point. Pokey looked around, took in the bright decor. By the time she was done, he thought it looked like clown had threw up all over the room. But he found it hard to explain. A party, a party, however dopey. He'd been to Pinkie's party before, and they all followed the same chant. So, of course, he took some small pleasure in destroying that innocent aesthetic. Sure, popping her balloons was an equally childish thing to do, but it gave him some measure of satisfaction in the face of the sugary sweet atmosphere. He was brought out of his high-low thoughts when the hot pink earth balloon hobbled up next to him on the table. "Excuse me," she babbled, reaching up on her hind legs to fasten more streamers across the walls and ceilings. His eyes again found her backside. Such inciting curves for a young filly like her. Then again, was she really that much younger than he was? It was just the way she acted made him see her as young. How old was she anyway? Might be awkward if someone asked and she didn't know on her birthday. She kept staring. Pinkie didn't notice. She hopped down and he brought his eyes back to the punch bowl, as if nothing had happened. "Sorry I'm so distracted," she offered, trotting lightly past him, "but I gotta finish singing up before the other guests arrive. I still have to put out the rest of the balloons and set up the table for the cake." No, there's got to be a place for presents, of course. What if I don't have enough chairs? Presents, that's right. Pokey reached down with eloquent hand, his horn glowing faintly. From his saddlebag he drew out a plain little present, a white brown box. "That reminds me," he said as casually as possible. "I got this for you." "Oh, you didn't have to get me anything," she smiled earnestly. "It's okay. I'm sure you'll like it." He didn't know exactly what it was, but that's what the Rarity other party had told him. It was perfect, she assured him. Some kind of game. "Well, thanks, Pokey." She bounced on her hoofs and graciously accepted the present. "Oh, why don't you open it?" He took another simple fudge. "Oh," she glanced up, then shook her head firmly. "No, I can't. I should wait until everyone's here to open my gift. But it's a game if you're going to play it. But it's a game if you're going to play it at the party," he mused, smiling and disaffected. "You should really know how to play it first. Otherwise, you'll hold everyone up." That punch was going right through him. "Well, if you insist," she smiled. Clearly it didn't take much convincing. Pokey shook his head as Pinky began eagerly unwrapping the box. "Excuse me, I'm going to find the little code's room," he muttered, fluttering off. "Okie dokie, Loki," she beamed back, still chilling in the gift wrap. Heavens, he hated the price. She used it all the time. It was stupid. So stupid. He shredded off. With the wrapping paper shredded in piles around her, Pinky was left holding a very plain white box. She opened it eagerly. Inside there were all sorts of decent pieces. Black fabric tapes, a blindfold, and a small booklet made of stapled together paper. It was all very elegant looking, and the monochrome coloring made it seem somehow classic. Even the handmade booklet, which appeared to be the instructions, seemed crafted with care. It was familiar somehow, but the young girl didn't linger on that thought. She pulled out all the pieces and flipped through the booklet, reading out loud to herself. Instructions how to play. Looks like was designed for as few players, but as many as people to join in. Good, how fun. What was first? One person needed to be it. Well, that's easy. She'd be it first. It was her birthday party after all. What else? You need a chair or table or something. But there was plenty of furniture around. Pinky grabbed a low-standing card table and spat it around over to herself, plopping down on her back on it, holding the instruction booklet over it to read. How fun this would be! She flipped the page. What was next? Some of the black straps were needed. She fished them out and laid them on her legs, just above the hooves. It said she needed help for this part, but Pinky had never found a game she couldn't set up by herself. She pushed on, determined. With every successive step of instructions, she followed along, straps on her hooves, around and under the table. She smiled, humming excitedly to herself. She never heard of a game like this. It had to be tight, the booklet said. She ducked. Her hooves came free. Not good enough. She put her hooves back in, tightened the strap by pulling with her teeth, real tight. Her hooves slipped right out. They had a habit of doing that. She would place them, tightened again, extra tight. Finally they were tight enough to hold her. She couldn't wiggle free. She checked them repeatedly, tucked and shimmied. Nope. She was held fast. Perfect. What was next? She flipped the pages with her nose. Pokey dabbled his hooves in the water and dried them off on a provided towel. Then he stepped disinterestedly back into the main sugar cube cavern. Maybe some party guest had arrived in a few minutes he'd been away. Maybe one of them had brought something strong in them punch. Maybe there was sexual filly who decided to show up, something to spice up his boring birthday. Oh hey, Pokey, came Pinky's perky noise. He glanced up, stared. For a long moment perhaps he'd had too much to drink. Maybe that watch was more loaded than he realized. No, he realized. He wasn't imagining this. There was the curvy pink filly, lying on her back on a smart card table, legs spread out in opposite direction. She was strapped down to the table in what looked like black leather bondage roster. She shimmed a little, but seemed firmly held up. Her puffy curly tail lay up between her legs, tapped on her stomach. She looked at him with familiar expression, excited and eager. "Hey," she said again, "how long have we been staring? Can you help me?" He blinked. "What?" "I just need you to help me with this next step." She turned her head and nosed at one last piece from the box. The blindfold. "Can you just slip this on me?" "Is this a trick?" he asked, hesitant. Still he paced closer. She giggled, evidently amused by his silly question. "No, it's a game." He looked over her. That had to be the most vulnerable position he had ever seen a girl in. Certainly no one ever expected to find Pinky Pink. At least not willingly, but sure enough, here she was, she laid out in front of him, spread eagle on the table all tied up, asking him for a blindfold. He had no idea what she was a freak. But he liked it. Was this for him? Had she sent that other feeling to invite him to make sure he got there early, an extra birthday present before the other festivities? Was she just much more lovely than he'd always imagined her? He couldn't piece it together. But really, it didn't matter how and why, how she was laid out in front of him. And he wasn't the type to look a gift horse out in the mouth. His horn glowed again, and a dark strip of satin fabric folded and slipped across Pinky's face, clinching around and covering those weak, trusting eyes. The world went black around her and she giggled. That seemed to be the default response to everything. "I can see," she said as perky as ever. "What's the next step?" He moved over her unseen. She screamed adorably beneath him. How did she tie up all four of her legs? This girl was full of surprises. He was starting to appreciate that. From the black window, another woman watched silently. Pinky couldn't stop fidgeting, even secured as she was on the table. Her natural enthusiasm was keeping her from sitting still despite the number of straps holding her in place, and it was all she could do, scream and wriggle. Her tail twitched, insistingly and unconsciously held between her spread-haired legs. She couldn't see a thing, but she could still seem to sense everything going on. Loki was so close, near her legs. She could hear him breathing. He wasn't answering that, but he was probably still trying to find the page. She didn't hear the booklet flipping. She felt weird like this. She didn't blindfold. Plenty of times before, usually while taking out a small cartridge full of piranhas. It wasn't a big deal because they loved parties as much as she did. But she never bound like this, especially not all the same. It was like an adventure, trying to pick out everything that was happening without seeing it was a fun challenge. She wanted to get on with the game. Her eagerness didn't always mean impatience, but it was just too much to not be excited. She was still all smiles and bubbly energy. Polky loomed over her. His eyes traced the curves of the soft pink foam which tied up so neatly beneath him. He knew he was drunk. Maybe worse, his vision was getting a little blurry, but thankfully alcohol never affected him in such way that might interfere with what he was to come. He did the kind of reality check, blinking hard and shaking his head. The blurriness wouldn't go away, but neither did the scene vanish around him. It seemed this really was happening. He didn't know Pinky very well. He'd been to plenty of her parties, but he never spoke with her more than just in passing. Julius he barely knew about the freely tied up on the table, but he wasn't about to pass up a golden opportunity. Whatever her motivation, she was here, now, and just as ready as he was. He gripped over her fluffy pink tail gently, magically. A light touch she barely felt, and brushed the tail aside to catch a glimpse of Pinky's pink fine. He smirked stupidly. Lame puns must be contagious. She moved her tail back instinctively, without even consciously registering him. Again he brushed it aside, this time a bit more firmly. headed all the way, leaving her uncovered. "Pokey, what are you doing now?" she chirped in eager curiosity. She was being coy, obviously. He didn't answer. He leaned down a little, nosing it right near her soft little mouth, took in the side of her smiling thighs. Her blush pink lips and delicate little petals, closed his eyes, inhaled, smelling her deeply. She smelled like cinnamon icing with vanilla. He brushed so slightly against her. "Hey," she started, screaming a little on the table. "Don't be a naughty pony, Pokey." The earth pony giggled playfully, almost in sing-song. "You know better than to touch a filly there." Maybe he did know better. Everything was black around Pinkie Pie. The whole place was quiet, save for the sound of shifting leather as she squirmed impatiently on the table. She waited a long moment. "Pokey?" she asked. No answer. She wondered if she had sounded too harsh. She was just joking. She knew Pokey only brushed her by accident, of course. She didn't mean to sound like she was really lecturing him. That sort of thing probably happens all the time. It's not like he was being a crazy host of trying to club or feel. He was just trying to help her with the game. Her heart sank a little. Did she scare him off? The table was unshifted a little, the sound of her host coming down softly on either side of her. She instantly became back to good spirits. A smile beamed across her blindfolded face. "Pokey, is that you?" she asked in darkness. Still no answer. The table shifted a little more. Hooves moved alongside her, under her hind legs from behind. That had to be Pokey, right? He felt like he was standing with his front legs on the table, and her legs pushing them up toward the chest with what the tight straps were low. "Is this the next step?" she asked excitedly. She never played a game like this before. The pink pony let out a little surprised "Oh!" when she felt something poke against her. Something hard and warm, very warm, like he had just come out of the oven. But it was wet, slick, and syrupy against her, slippery, poking out, and worst of all, it was poking right against her private place. "Pokey!" she jumped, startled. "Is that you?" Still no answer. She grinned, fidgeting with whatever the thing was pressing against her. It stayed there, wrestling right against her private pink place. No matter how much she wriggled, she couldn't shift out of place, move her hips aside. She was stuck firmly in place. "Pokey, what are you doing?" "Pokey, what are you doing?" Her voice was still bubbly, but there was the edge of hesitation betraying her apprehension, her slight worry. "Okay, I can see we have to talk," she said with a nervous giggle. The something started to press a little harder. The perky pink pony stiffened up in surprise, then wriggled more. "Pokey," she gasped, following with an uncomfortable laugh. "Come on, say something." "Oh, hi, Pinky, I'm right there." Just silence. The slippery warm pink started to press in against her mouth. She squirmed, and the hooves on the table pushed against her legs, straining them against the straps, trying to pull them up toward her chest. She was spread wide like this, her little hooves pointed just a little up in the air. Her tail was pinned out of the way. She wriggled, but it accomplished nothing. She felt something start to gill, and through the darkness could make out the very tip of the pink part in her bright pinky place. She screamed more. "Pokey!" She had a weak, nervous smile. It wasn't very convincing. She was really worried now. "Pokey, what are you doing?" she asked, helpless. Still pinned. She couldn't see, couldn't hear him. All she could do was feel him and struggle. It kept pressing. Of all her friends, Pinky Brownie knew the least about her. She was too innocent, too sheltered. Felicia had seen it with unabashed face of nature. Dwight had told her surely read about it in her books, but Pinky had no exposure. She didn't quite know what was going on. She just knew if she didn't act, something was about to happen. "Pokey," she yelled. Her voice still had its friendly tone, but it was strained. There was urgency. She spoke quickly, even for Pinkie Pie. "Pokey, I don't think this is what the book said to do." The pressing continued. Something was about to give. "Pokey, don't!" The little fellow's protest was suddenly interrupted, replaced with a sharp, squeaking gasp. Pokey let out a hot sigh. Shivers of pleasure ran up his back as he forced his hips to work smoothly, sliding his long, dark, drifting shaft into the pink little body beneath him. She was so silky smooth, like fucking velvet. Her tender, blush rosy was so warm and soft, just like the rest of her. He lowered his head a little, sighing with satisfaction. He couldn't get out of the rain, but most of the way was good enough. He rested there for a second, his sleek body deep in that little hilly's tiny long hall. Plump pink lips parted round that west shaft. He leaned back just a little, peering underneath himself to see. He'd never taken a girl in this position, face to face like this. It was a little awkward. He provided a better view though. He watched eyes locked between her body tights as he slowly pulled out inch by inch. Her puffy, pursy lips pulled back with him a little. They were so tightly wrapped around his throbbing shaft. He smiled, pushed back in slowly, stroking his dick back into that neat young pussy again. What a sigh! He wished he had a camera. He was Pinkie was so tense up underneath him, surrounded by darkness. The blindfold on her face wasn't coming off. She was pulling hard on all its straps, but they couldn't even budge. For a brief moment, all she could focus on was that feeling of feeling penetrated. Her head pounded and her heart raced erratically. Her mouth hung open, but she couldn't say anything. She felt winded. It was like getting a shot only times 100, a million. He shook for a second, then managed to at least to gasp, taking a deep breath of air. Her chest heaved unevenly. She felt like there was a weight on her chest, and she had trouble breathing. When that bull stallion mounted over her began moving again, she felt something deep inside her moving too. She could barely understand it. That thing inside her, that wet, warm heart being pushed inside her little pink hole. Nothing was supposed to touch her there. Nothing was supposed to go inside. How could it even have? It was too much to think about. Her mouth and body reeled. Pookie thrust back inside hard, deeper this time. She reached her limit. She jumped sharply, her puffy mane bouncing as her vulnerable foe shuddered in response. It was too big inside her. He was so sleek and wet he'd managed to get in deep, but she could barely take the size, especially having never taken anything before. Her legs shook. "Pokey," she managed to whimper out, her tone uneven. He didn't hear her. His mind was somewhere else. She couldn't see him. Her hair was beating so loudly it edged through her aching head. She could barely hear him. She could feel him deep inside her. She now felt his hooves against her legs, using her for leverage now. All she could feel is his hot breath against her chest, making her shiver and shake. With every slight motion she could feel that thing sliding roughly in and out in her. It was sleek, smooth, but so hard. It hurt. Pinkie screamed, wriggling, instinctively trying to adjust herself. She wasn't straining to get free anymore. She was trying to reposition, to spread her legs wider, to become more accessible without even realizing. Not because she wanted it, but just to make it easier for herself, to make it feel less big, but it was no good. She felt like she was being split open. She screamed and spoke. "Okay, I don't want to play this game anymore." The once perky bone baked vaguely. The blue stallion didn't even notice. He just stared deliberately at the sky behind for him. Those leather-bound legs, that soft curvy flank, and that plush, plumping pussy parted so pleasantly around his prick. He planted his hoofs at her sides, and she kept her real, her legs raised as high as she could. He noticed only in passing. Weird girl, he thought. She seemed so reluctant for a while. Now she was praying eagerly for him. He took it as an open invitation. After repositioning himself, Pokey slid his cock back into her, wading in trance in a single long stroke. The stallion started bucking at her good casual rhythm. He didn't take it easy on her or went slowly. Not that he was trying to be cruel, but his mind, as cloudy as it was trying to think of anyone but himself. That feeling, she was so soft, never been used before. She was giving her virginity up to him. She must be crazy about him. Maybe she'd waited for a long time to set this up. Or maybe she was just a freak and he was in the right place at the right time. But right now, feeling her bone inside and silky smooth around him, he didn't care. He was leaping like a faucet, adjusting in and out with animalistic force, each stroke slicked by his wet, slippery cock. I don't want to play anymore. Pretty please, she repeated, her voice high-pitched, nearly breaking. Hey, sugar, she added in wild desperation. Pinkie Pie had stopped screaming around. All her eerie energy, her energetic enthusiasm that kept screaming her perky, bubbly gladness, they'd vanished. She just lay there on the table, flat on her back, hind legs propped on the air, as Pokey bounded away to fall young filly. Her body muscles tightened up a little with each stroke, but otherwise she barely moved. She tried to keep her legs as wide open as possible, but it didn't do much. He kept trusting, selfishly focused on his own pleasure, not even paying attention to the discomfort Pinky's penetration was causing her. Her forelegs tensed up reflexively against the straps with every stroke. Tears were streaming down to Pinky's face from beneath the blindfold, which had ground down. The deepest point of her rhythmic chest, she jumped pungently, but still softly. Only a few filled Pinky's senses, all she could focus on besides the sharp poking sensation, the loud wet sense of flesh and flesh. The tunnel's heavy dark balls slapping even against Pinky's barriers as they swung beneath him. The bubbling of the table spoke him out the tied up feeling, and her own reflexing squeaking. Oh, 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 she cried quietly. At every thrust of she bottomed out inside her. Her voice was weak, whimpering. It didn't get better as he went on. The pain of the initial penetration had faded a little, but still every poke hurt. And yet through these clouded senses all the stallion could hear was shy moaning. He was utterly lost in the sensation and the sights of Pinky's beats. He kept going, and with each stroke he prodded another pitch with her wincing voice. Oh, oh, wow. She felt so good around him. And she'd offered herself up so neatly. All she needed was a pretty little bow on top to finish the display. In a pleasurable haste that grew around him as he neared climax, his mind wandered gravely. He kept trusting at the measured pace, the hot, silky sensation around his cock flooding his senses. Heavenly! Would this be a regular thing? He'd have to make a note to attend more of her parties, and whether or not she was setting this up for him particular, or just because she finally wanted her to shut it up. This girl was clearly a freak. She liked it rough, and this was awfully kinky for a first time, with his straps and the blindfold. Well, he thought he could be rough if that's what she wanted. If she wanted to be dominated, he'd come around sugar cup corner a lot more often. If she wanted someone aggressive, he'd be aggressive. In a person like this, how could he resist? He'd corner her whenever he called her alone, pin her down, force her. He blinked slowly, drawing in a deep breath, spreading up, slamming his hips against her. Let's not get carried away, he thought. That would be too far. Wouldn't act without making sure first. After walking, thought he wasn't a rapist. He shuddered. The pleasure was building up inside him. He strapped his shoulders, hung his head, and focused. On finishing, he sped up, hips backing harder and faster. sobbing against the Berkey windows. Pinky wasn't even whimpering anymore. Beneath the blindfold, her eyes were screwed shut tight. There was only darkness, and that brief half second between every poke, feeling it ball out when she tense up, wishing that would be the last one, but fearing what was inevitably to come. It was a bad dream, and she couldn't wake up. She just wanted it to be over. The stallion braced himself against her, backing his hips wildly against her. Thrusting like an animal, ramming in and out, with her soul in little edges and making slick red spouts. He reached his peak, went over the edge, sped up, slamming away into her as fast as he could, pulling out almost all the way, and embedded himself inside her velvety lips as long as he could. She jumped sharply like a violent hiccup, and tensed up all over. She arched her back high on the table, overcome with the sharp sensation he twitched inside her. She felt it, throbbing. Felt something else that was filling her up. It was so hard to focus in the darkness. Something warm inside her. She could feel him breathing hot air against her ear. He heard his lungs straining to keep his activity. Leaned down and whispering, "Happy birthday, Pinkie Pie." He didn't hold there for very long. As soon as his orgasm had passed, he pulled out unquestioningly. Pinkie Pie bit her lip, tensed up for it in where it thrusted, and immediately called up the witch shovel, but it didn't come. She held there poised blind for a few seconds, but at last realizing it was going back in, she just collapsed flat. Every sore muscle in her poor body felt relaxed. Her legs lay weak against the table, still strapped inside her chest heaved as she tried to catch her breath. She could feel something sticky all over her inner thighs and down to her pink face. It felt like a syrup, but very warm. Her breathing was weak, uneven, like she was expecting something worse to happen. She didn't scream or babble or smile, she barely moved. She didn't show any hope for her ecstatic energy. She lay on her table, panting, bound, blind. She'd stopped crying, but her face was still dumb. She lay there for a long time, didn't move, didn't make a sound. Her mind could barely touch what had just happened. She tried to make sense of it, what little she understood from it all, but it just wouldn't process. She could feel the sticky stuff dying in her. "Wilkie?" she finally asked weakly. No answer. She waited at least another minute, just breathing. "Wilkie, are you there?" Still nothing. For a second she thought the bad dream was over. There was a dream. She could hear the door swing open. She broke out instantly in a cold sweat, shivering, whimpering audibly. "I don't want to play anymore, Wilkie," she choked loudly. "Pinkie Pie came with a soft voice, the unclearly broken eye of her blindfold sweating a familiar face. She slipped out the hose straps and waved over her new two guests. "Oh, hi, Big Mac. Hi, Fluttershy," she babbled, her mane bouncing as she hopped over the door. "Are you here for my birthday party? Did you come here together?" The newcomer stared blankly at the disheveled pony. Her tail was sharply matted, distinct and easily recognizable white streaks half dried ran down her leg from her crotch. Her face was stained with tears and a blindfold half leveled on her head. "Oh my gosh, Pinkie Pie, what happened?" Fluttershy immediately demanded. "You okay, little filly?" The big red stallion asked. Pinkie hesitated for a second. Her smile quivered, her eyes went a little ghastly. For a second she looked like she was about to fall over. Max stepped forward unsure. Then she hopped up in a place and grinned excitedly. "Of course I am," she beamed. Her enthusiasm didn't fit her appearance at all, but her bounce was unmistakable. "After all, it's my birthday. My bestest friends are on their way. Now I shall have another half a hour before the party starts, and if you both help me, we can get the last of the steamers set up." She turned back to the store, calling, "Come on, I'm gonna wash up, and then we can have set the cake." The pink filly stopped, stood still for a second. "And games," she shouted over her shoulder, "but fun games everyone can enjoy." Fluttershy and Big Mac just stared at each other. Outside, Rarity stepped away from the window with a shrug. Pinkie must have learned something from all that she had, hadn't she? And yet she realized like this. But then Pinkie Pie surrendered. It's hard to tell with her. The bright unicorn shrugged. It wasn't worth worrying about. Besides, she had to get ready for a party.